So, but we got people logging on. For those who don't know, this is Salute the Culture with Salute Life. I have here Mr. Tavon Davis, who happens to be a family member of mine. So we got the inside track. Designer, owner of Victory Lab, also former apparel designer for Reinvent Thyself Apparel. So Tay, kind of introduce the people about yourself, about the brand, where you're from, and everything like that.
Okay, my name's Tavon Davis. I am the founder, creative director, designer of Victory Lab. It's a men's premium sportswear brand based in New York. Since 2015 is when we originally started. But even going back even prior to that, I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So, I went to school, CSU, got my education in communication. And then after I graduated, worked a little in finance, just kind of because for me, there was always this, these steps that I knew I had to take in order to get where I was going. So like finance, that allowed me to understand and learn the concept of money and financing and how to really use money, because that wasn't something that was really ever taught to me. And I thank God for my basketball coach, because he was the one that actually introduced me into investing. So I learned a lot about that. So, I never really wanted or saw myself, growing up, never really saw myself wanting to really work for anyone. I knew I always wanted to design clothes ever since I was like 9 years old. I was always sketching, designs, whether it be sneakers, shirts, or whatever. And in college, I got introduced to Chris Christmas, who was like, a lot of people don't know him, but Chris Christmas is one of the guys that was responsible for, introducing Shaq to Reebok for that Reebok pump, that Reebok Shaq Gnosis, the first Reebok Shaq shoe. So I started interning with him back in 2004 for a while, and, designing tech packs, designing work, for Reebok back then. This is 2004. Graduated in 2005, and it's kind of like at a standstill. Didn't really know, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, but I know I had to do my own thing. So started Reinvent Thyself, which is a very, very super conscious streetwear brand, and was very, very fortunate enough to get into some of the most acclaimed doors in the world. I'm talking leaders in Chicago. Shout out to, Corey and Ty and Vic, and definitely those guys. I definitely can't forget Diego. Like, those guys were really instrumental in kind of nurturing me throughout the way, and really served as mentors. So that's kind of, the background story, if you will. And then I moved to New York and started Victory Lab. Kind of like even before then, like I did some retail, worked at Bloomie's for a little bit when I first arrived, and met some amazing people. And that's definitely where I learned retail, for sure. Like understanding markdowns and promotions and things like that, because it was my first. So I had the design side, but I didn't really necessarily know how to run a retail location. And I knew that's what I wanted to open up. So, I felt like I had to work at a shop like that so that I could understand the business side of it. So kind of, there's always like, okay, boom, I know the design side. Now I need to understand retail. I understand it from a wholesale point of view, but from a customer and front-facing point of view, didn't really understand it. So, so I did that for probably close to 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, opened up the shop That was January of 2015. And I was very naive when I opened up that shop. And I don't regret it. I definitely learned so much from that experience. But I felt like, okay, open up this shop and people are just going to see the stuff, they're going to come and buy. But that's not how it works.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, but we had a conversation about that.
Many conversations.
Yeah, because I was, so for again, for those who just logging in, checking in, this is the founder, owner of Victory Lab. And I want you to, go into the misconceptions of actual brick and mortar space, and then like what you feel like the do's and don'ts are.
Man, I learned so much. I think when they say location, they really mean that. Like, it's so important. I opened up Victory Lab, the shop, with the naive idea that, when people see, the product and the craftsmanship of the product, that it would just speak and it would sell. That was certainly not the case. And, I'm across the street from a high school, completely not my demographic. And there was no shop around like it. And every time people would come in, they would say, wow, this is a shop that looks like it belongs in Soho. It did look like it belonged in Soho. And, but, I've always enjoyed reading about and learning about stores that were just off the beaten path, whether it was Busy Works by Bape back in '93, or Maison Margiela, or certain brands that just didn't conform to the I'm going to be right here in Soho, or I'm going to go where everyone is at, or I'm going to go to north side of Williamsburg or anything like that. Like, that wasn't ever really something. If you know me, like, I don't really operate like that. I'm gonna go left. If everyone's going right, I'm gonna go completely left and just deal with it. And that's what I did. And for a year and a half, it was definitely a struggle. Like, the first 6 months, they were doing construction in front of the shop, completely blocked everything. And there's no sign. There was signage, but you really couldn't access the shop. And it was such a stressful time, because you figure, when you open up a shop, you need as much visibility as humanly possible to make sure that people see what you're doing, and to build that buzz, and to really get out the gate running in a really great way. And that wasn't the case. It was a struggle out the gate to get that visibility. And fast forward a year, I'm thinking, okay, what have I learned from this experience? One, I think the major thing, there were friends that I had, friends that are far more knowledgeable than me when it comes to retail, when it comes to friends that actually grew up in New York. Like, I'm not from New York. So friends that I could have called, and I did not. I could have called and said, hey, what are some neighborhoods that you would recommend that I look into? Because, here I am putting almost $100,000 into, retail space, the build out, the inventory, all of it. And I asked questions, but it was more creatively. I didn't ask questions, the right questions on, those things that are imperative for a brand's overall success. It was, I saw the shop, I envisioned it and where it would be, and looked at it from that space, but I wasn't looking, I was looking 5 to 10 years down the road, but I wasn't looking down the road from a sense of, okay, there's a business, how are you going to get people? Because it was truly more of a destination. There was nothing around it. There weren't really any shops. So while one could say there was no competition and there were no other shops, you need neighboring businesses that sense of community to
drive the flow,
to absolutely drive the flow for sure. And that's one thing that, looking back now, as I begin to think about a new retail location, those are things that, I keep in mind. I know who I need to call when it's that time. Presently, it's wholesale and direct to consumer online, which is doing incredible, especially online. But, for me, there's something about having a retail location that people say retail is dying. And while that may be true to a certain extent, where you look at, certain malls or department stores that are filing for bankruptcy and that sort of thing. But there's something about going into a store, touching something, examining it with your hands and enjoying it in that process versus you being in your damn pajamas and you order some shoes online and they get there. While that is great, and I love the convenience of it, to me, it just does not beat having a brick and mortar, that experience. So I think when you look at the retail landscape, that's certainly something that's going to have to change, because I've never viewed people as customers. I've always viewed them as community, as investors, especially investors, because...
Let me ask you about that. I'm going to get back to the investment part of it, because that goes into the conversation of black dollars and circulating the actual fund to black businesses. But because retail right now, we're at for example, for people that just checked in, feel free. There's a question box. If you want to ask them any questions about design or anything to that space, feel free to submit any questions. But what about building a retail space in this particular climate of COVID-19 right now?
Man, it's going to be very, very interesting because we truly don't know what the aftermath, what it's all going to look like once the dust settles. We truly don't. Like, I'm constantly in contact with manufacturers to see if they're going to be open, because you don't know what that, like, especially, thinking about retail, like, there's going to be some changes. There are going to be some brands that are going to make it. And there's going to be some that just either because of passion, funding, a number of different variables that they can't control, they're just not going to be able to withstand it. So for me, it's definitely on my mind and I'm thinking about it constantly. Like, I was supposed to do a month-long pop-up shop, for the month of May for the release of the collab I just had, but I had to postpone that pop-up shop because of COVID. So when you think about COVID and the impact it's going to have, not just even on a local landscape, but on a global, and things were already very difficult for retail before this happened. So, you throw this in the mix and, how is someone going to, are people going to be as excited to go to a retail location or brick and mortar once things open up? That is going to be something that's going to be seen. I think eventually, yeah, but I think businesses have to get out of that mind frame of we're here to sell product and we're here to turn and burn and get that dollar. Like, you got to sell an experience. You have to provide an experience, and the service has to be, above and beyond, because I always often say nobody remembers average, and even did a campaign and everything around it and did really well. But it's true. After this, no one's going to remember average. Like, you either have to be operating at an incredibly high level to ensure your success, or you're going to fall by the wayside. So when you talk about the black dollar and circulation of, funds within the community, and I would say that to me is very important, because often, when you go into and I was, and to digress for just a moment, like, I was really thinking, like, how many people do I know that look like me that have a retail location? I can count on two hands of people that I actually know who've had a retail location for more than, let's say, 2 years. that are still around, that are operating at a high level, and that are really doing great things. I can two hands, and that to me is concerning. You know, there's already a very large and disproportionate population of people in this industry, whether it be models, designers, people that work in the back office that are people of color. So when I think about where I'm putting my money, I'm always thinking about, you know, how am I supporting friends and how am I supporting people that I wouldn't say struggling, but that need that support. Like for me, that I was talking to a really good friend, my friend Pell, who I believe you know, and James, and was saying, you know, this community that we have of creatives, like, you know, when we shop with each other, you know, because that is what we call compounding interest.
Hey, 1 second, Tay.
Yeah.
Cousin on here, Barcode Candles. She got a candle company, y'all. Check her out.
That's what's up.
I think she's also selling other stuff. You can drop in the comment what you sell. But So let me cut you off. So for me, you know, I'm an advocate of like supporting not just you, but just black designers and black. So for me, for like the last, I don't know when I became aware of it. I don't know at what point I became I know it had something to do with your brand, but I think I just started rocking black designers, period, for like the last 4 to 5 years. Like 80% of my clothes is like from black designers. And I'm not saying I don't have clothes from that by major retailers and not from white people, because I do. But what I'm saying is like, I just think I noticed a situation where when, as far as musically or creatively, or if you see somebody in the magazine, they're quick to like shout out, you know, all these other brands, which is fine. You got the Louis and you got the Gucci's and you got the Maison Margielas and you got all these particular brands out there, whatever the case may be. But you're talking about Victory Lap. The reason I wore the shirt, if people looking at me right now, you see this shirt that I have is like 4 to 5 years old. Like
5 years old, yeah.
Shit looks brand new. You understand what I'm saying? Like, well, people don't really, and the price point ain't low, but the bottom line is you invest. I feel like we got to talk about the investment when you talk about the black dollar, just circulating your funding to Victory Lab clothing. You can go to H&M for some copycat bullshit. That shit gonna run out. One watch, that shit is done. You understand what I'm saying? I got this 5 years ago. This shit look brand new. You know what I'm saying? So when you buy clothes, talk about like what's the investment into just your brand, and then talk about just investment of the black dollar period.
Absolutely. So I think when you go to like my Instagram, the Instagram for Victory Lab, and one of the hashtags is we make investment pieces, and I wholeheartedly stand behind that. Like everything that I put out, like everything, like there's a lot of thought and care and attention to detail that goes into everything, because for me, like, I don't have a lot of clothing. It's more out of a simplistic lifestyle, but the stuff that I do have is of extremely high quality. And for me, as a black designer, I am fully aware that, you know, in order for me to get these looks, sometimes, or even for anyone to pay attention, like, man, my stuff has got to be well above average. That's just the reality of it. Sometimes I go into have meetings or go into boutiques and I see stuff and I'm turning it over and I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the quality and I'm like, the needlework's shoddy, the fabric, I know where they got the fabric from, the fabric isn't good, and they're in here, but you know, you have to, and I'm always thinking to myself, man, the people that are, because I don't call them customers, they're investors. It's a community, because when you are purchasing something, you know, with your hard-earned money that you worked tirelessly for, like that, I don't take it lightly. Every person that purchases something from me, like I write a handwritten note to everybody, like that. Always, like it took me, like even last week when we dropped this collaboration, man, my hands was tired because I was writing notes to everyone. Like I don't forget that. Like you're talking about somebody, me, who I've been dreaming about this since I was 9 years old. Like this isn't some get rich quick scheme for me. Like this is my life. So this is something that I care deeply about. The fabric, a lot of the fabric I get, Japanese mills or Italian mills or, the best mills I can get with the resources that are available to me.
So hold up. Let me say that. So you pretty much get the same fabric as these high-end brands that everybody gets, right? That's true.
I think when you understand, like the community is such a large community, but the mills, the factories, everyone uses damn near those same factories. My wallets are the same wallets that are the same hides that Comme des Garçons uses, Tom Ford uses. My trousers is the same trouser factory that Marc Jacobs uses. By the same craftsmen and women. So absolutely, like the stuff that's getting produced by Victory Lab. The one thing I will say and that I take a great deal of pride in is that it's all very sectored in terms of skill sets. So the factory that makes the hats, they only make hats. They don't make napkins and t-shirts and hoodies and things like that. They only specialize in a certain area. They have a position, they play it. It's like literally like a football team, a college football team. I will make the analogy to, like, everyone has that particular position. I source and work with the absolute best factories, the most storied factories. The people that have been making my pants have been in business over 100 years, in Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about, that sort of craftsmanship and what you want in a brand, man, I want this to last, to be able to be able to walk into a store when I'm like 60 years old. And obviously you have Ralph Lauren who's been around since the 60s, or for me, I want to have that kind of staying power. I want to have a brand that stands the test of time and is not just here for a season or two. We made a little run and that was that. Like Victory Lap is a sentiment. It's you've already won, and it's comprised of of that particular vision. Great product. It's always going to be about having product that is incredibly well made. It's something that I stand by because it's my name behind it, truly. And the customer's not gonna shop with you again if they feel, hey, they feel cheated, or they didn't feel like they got the best when they gave you their best. They didn't ask for a discount. They said, hey, this is what I paid for, and this is what I got. So for me, I
want to shout out a couple people. I think at least of my boy Adam, 1980. He said,
"Yo, what up?"
He said, "You get it. Quality, lifetime, $1. I can't even read this because it's goddamn comments, but quality, $1. Listen, my ignorance is kicking in. I don't know if you can read the comment. Go ahead." Bobby Joseph said, "What up?"
Bobby, what's up?
Lindsay, that Victory Lap inspired. You know what I'm saying? Again, if you guys have any questions about design, let's talk about I was going to ask a question about Virgil Abloh because he said something about streetwear dying, but I'm going to get to that question in a second. Let's talk about that discount mentality, right? So let me go with my story on the discount before you go.
Mm-hmm. Please.
So my mom and dad, they owned a pizza restaurant back in Sacramento, California. Yep. And then they owned a Golden Crest in Orlando, Florida. You know what I'm saying? That's how they got out to Orlando in the first place. And so every once in a while, and this is not a knock. First of all, let me just make this statement, disclaimer. It's not a knock to my black people, right? But I'm just giving you the truth from the other side of the situation, right? So the majority of the customers that used to ask for discounts was the black customers. I'm not saying nobody else did it, but because they frequented the restaurant or they were in the area and they found out it was a black owner, they always been like, yo, what's good, man? I'm supporting you. Now, I know you may not experience that on the Victory Lap side of things, you might, maybe, I don't know, but you might have experienced on the Reinvent Thyself side of things because it was more streetwear related. And let's talk about why that's not conducive to our progress as being Black business owners.
It's not, because for one, that hasn't happened to me for Victory Lab, thank goodness. But when I think of it, it definitely happened when I was doing Reinvent Thyself and I was designing for that, and people would always ask me, hey, let me get a discount and whatnot. And I would always like, well, I didn't discount the clothing from the design work that I was doing, or you got to understand this is a business and you're not running a nonprofit organization here. So you would not walk into a store of caliber of a Louis Vuitton or a Christian Dior and say, hey, can I get a discount for this shirt? So why is it acceptable for you to ask me that? And I get it and I understand it, but when you do that to someone that looks like you're saying, and you may not even know this, but you're saying your product isn't worth me spending regular price to purchase. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It does happen, and I think we have to get out of that mindset of, this is a discounted brand, even though you're not saying that. Verbally, you're expressing that when you do make that acknowledge that, hey, can I get a discount on this? Like, I'm very enthusiastic about supporting my friends, and I don't ever ask for charge me what you're gonna charge me, because I understand that plight, that struggle, that adversity that you're going through. So that circulation, when we talk about the circulation of funds within our community, within, not even just saying the Black community, but my community of friends, my man Bobby or Pell or yourself or James or anyone like that, it's like those funds need to be, exchange hands amongst us, 6-10 times before it leaves the community. And by that, I mean, like, before it leaves and you say, okay, I need to go get me a pair of shoes, and none of my friends are doing shoes, so let me just go buy a pair of Nikes or whatever it is and this is just an example, obviously, but those are the type of conversations we have, and it's important, because this leads to compounding interest. When I invest in your business, you invest in your friend's business who's doing merch or has a t-shirt brand or is selling candles or anything like that, that constantly doing that is going to compound interest, where everyone within that collective community is not only learning from each other, and we are also growing at the same time collectively. When you don't do that and you just, say, gimme, and you are not putting those funds back into the community, and you're not expressing your gratitude for those people that support you, you're not going to be around for a long time.
So I don't know the statistic. I was trying to look it up real quick, but I can't look it up. But if anybody wants to put in the comment section and say how long the actual Black dollar lasts in the community, and then
very short.
Then yeah, very short. And I want to say less than 24 hours, as opposed to any other community that dollar, whether it be the Asian community, whether it be the white community, whether it be any other particular community outside of Black community, it lasts for an expansion of time. You understand what I'm saying? To where that infrastructure in that community could actually grow. But also, I don't want to get political. There's a whole other aspect to it. You know what I'm saying? As to why that does not happen. But I'm not going to go there right now. You know what I'm saying? So Virgil Abloh said back in December 2019, he said, streetwear era will die eventually. How many t-shirts and hoodies can you possibly make? He said maybe within a year. So he was basically saying by 2021, the hoodie and t-shirt game is a wrap. So what do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I definitely don't agree with it. I think that when you look at t-shirts have been around for an incredibly long time. You look at the U.S. Navy, who probably popularized the T-shirt. Graphic T-shirt, people will always want a way to express themselves. You may not call it streetwear or sportswear or what have you, but people are definitely always going to want a way to express themselves. So in terms of streetwear and the hoodie, and those are all staple pieces. Those are timeless pieces that people are always going to want to have. They may not wear it in the same style as, look at the long tee, that long white tee from '03. That didn't age well. You know what I'm saying? That was like a 2-season thing, and we were back to regular size white T-shirts. So while I get what he did say, I don't subscribe to that theory that, hey, streetwear is dead. Victory Lap has always had a nod to streetwear because that's how I got in the industry, through streetwear. So there's always going to be a subconscious part of me when I'm designing, when I'm putting stuff out. This T-shirt, for example, Mississippi Goddamn, it's a nod to Nina Simone and what we're currently going through, which seems like a cycle. Like, this is a T-shirt I feel like is timeless and is going to speak volumes as we as people are experiencing. So I definitely don't subscribe to that, but no.
So speaking of which, right? So we're going through the space of COVID. We're going through what's been ongoing violence against our communities. The COVID is attacking our community, as it's attacking multiple communities, but our community at a higher rate. When I say our community, our community.
Yeah, statistically, I was looking at that.
From a creative standpoint, from a designer standpoint, what is that doing to you as a creative, as far as what you're looking for in the future and trying to put out your product?
Man, that's a great question, Tim. I think for me, as a creative, I'm thinking long term. Like, I'm thinking of the effects that it's going to have in 2021, 22, 23. And the overall fashion, the overall landscape, globally, if you're, much of the product I produce is in the United States. I would say for the first time, we ventured offshore, and then, but I think it's important to have a sort of balance. And, for the longest time, for over 14 years, I was producing stuff exclusively in the United States. That's all I would do. That was where the buck stopped with me. And I still remember, and I do have these conversations with close friends of mine, Bobby, and I've had these conversations with you and my friend Pell, and some guys like, man, I'm thinking about doing something abroad. What are your thoughts? And I struggled with it because for me, it was like, people always have this negative thought when you say, hey, made in China, or, certain things like that. And I think that beautiful clothing can be made anywhere as long as you're diligent and you are there throughout the entire process. You're not, when you're done, you're appropriately vetting them. You are, thinking about, how this is affecting their workers. Are they being, because first and foremost for me, I'm for the equal and fair treatment of everybody, black, white, Asian, brown, you name it. Like, I've always been about that. So fair and equal treatment, doesn't always reciprocate, but for me, I know that that's something in terms of my contribution, that's really important to me. Do these workers have appropriate health care? And are they getting paid a fair wage? Those things are important to me. So when I'm looking at, where is Victory Lab, after COVID, I'm thinking about my output. So I'm thinking about, stuff that's being produced. I'm thinking about, is this sustainable? Is this, I'm always thinking is this going to be an investment piece? Is somebody that's purchasing something from Victory Lab going to want to rock this 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Or is this shit just going to end up in a landfill somewhere?
So let me ask you this. You see, do you feel like you made it? Do you feel like you made, like, I don't know what the term of making it mean? As a designer, you seeing designers within your growth process, you seeing some fall off, you seeing some shoot right past you, as far as like publicity wise. I'm not going to say whatever the case may be. Do you feel like you made it? Do you feel like you're underestimated in the design world? Yeah, the answer to go with those two questions.
Man, no, I don't think I've made it. I don't think, I feel like I still have so many stories to tell. I feel like I still have so much to give and so much to contribute. So no, I've had some success and I've been able to, strike the iron and continue to grow as a creative, as a designer. But I don't think, for me, I think success is something that we all have our own definition for. And I feel like I still have an incredibly long way to go, to be honest. But I feel like I'm learning during this journey, each and every day, and in every collection or drop that I'm doing. So I would always, I think one thing we as creatives that are Black, people of color, we have to stop doing is comparing our journey to other people's journey and what their experience, because you don't know their experiences. You don't know what connections, you just don't know their full story and what they had in order to get where they are. Like, I can tell you, like, there were no cosigns for me. There was, I didn't have a mother that said, hey, here's a couple $100,000, go play. And if you screw up, here's some more money to, make you feel better. Every dollar had to be accounted for. I had to learn finance. I had to work at an investment firm so I can understand money, So for me, like, in terms of when you ask that question, how do you feel like you've made it? Definitely not. I think it'll be a feeling that I'm sure I'll get when I say, okay, I'm cool now. I can go retire and take pictures of basketball hoops or something like that. But right now, man, I'm like really locked in creatively and in a good space, and looking forward to a lot of different releases that I'm going to be working on this year and next. Man, I'm really excited, man. Like, when I dropped the collab with Novesta and it was really well received, I was honestly damn near terrified, because I'm like, man, we're in COVID. At least for me, this Nikes and Adidas are the only sneaker I know my size and I can order boom online and not sweat it. So for a guy to go to my site and spend $185 on a sneaker that he's never touched, he's never tried on, he doesn't know anything about, like, I was scared, because there was a plan to do a pop-up shop and to have this entire experience and collaborate with Bobby on something really dope, and even further than the hoodie that we did. And that obviously had to take a back seat because of all of this. So I would say right now, like, while I would say, for people that are watching or that are gonna watch this, like, man, use your time.
Absolutely.
Use your time to really, really hone in on your skill, on your craft, and what it is you're doing, so that when the dust really settles and we are back to this new normal, you're out the gates running. You're not an additional 3 months behind trying to figure things out. Like, you already have been sharpening that knife, like prepping and getting ready for, the bell to ring, because there is going to be a new normal, and that new normal is not going to be average. People are not going to want to spend their money on things that are not going to help them in a way that's going to help them achieve their goals. They're going to be very, very reserved and smarter than, we're dealing with an incredibly smart customer base now, but you're going to be even more thoughtful in terms of where you're spending your dollar. And you look at the black dollar, and we have probably one of the highest. Our spending power is so great.
Right, I'm gonna stop right there. I looked at the statistics. So we spent $1.3 trillion, and guess how long that dollar's circulating in the black community?
6 minutes.
6 hours. Asian community, that dollar circulates 28 days. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on something that you said. I'm going to comment on just what you just said. In reference to working on your craft while under COVID. Also want to comment on the comparison aspect. My favorite quote is, comparison is the thief of joy. You sitting here, what is it? That famous picture when Homeboy was in the Olympics, the swimming guy. What's the dude's name?
Man, brother.
Michael Phelps. The dude was winning. If you guys remember, Homeboy was winning. It took maybe not even a millisecond to look over in that other lane. Boom.
It was over.
It was over after that. Sitting here trying to figure out who's in the lane next to you when you should be figuring out what's straight ahead of you.
Yep.
You went from first place to second place. You went from legendary to beating the legend to making the legend look like a legend, and that's how you perform.
And then being remembered as somebody that, took their eye off that prize and being used as a tool to remind people what happens when you are not focused on that goal of yours that's in front of you. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I want to comment on the time being used under the space of COVID. For those who's watching, for those who's trying to figure shit out, in my opinion, and this is just strictly my opinion, I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs on here, but learn a craft and learn how to do some shit outside of your job.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? Because what did COVID teach you? There's millions of people on unemployment right now, right? I'm in an employment situation that's transitioning to unemployment because I work as an assistant director for an after school, right? For being an assistant director for an after school, you know what I mean? What can I possibly do if there's no school?
Yeah.
In the face of COVID. And so for me, I've always been an entrepreneur, so that's never necessarily a situation that I have to particularly worry about, but I don't know everything. So what I've been doing, I've been reading books back to back. I don't necessarily have any work to do. I've been in Florida for 2 to 3 months. I don't have any work to do. I've been reading books. I've been hitting you up about stuff. I've been doing my research. You understand what I'm saying? Because when I come out of this thing, you gotta, before you walk in, you should come out of COVID better than when you walked in.
Absolutely. I definitely can't stress that. You should be more skilled, more confident, and ready to go for yours. And that's one thing. And I often, I get a lot of DMs about people that ask me for mentorship or advice on how to get into this particular field. And it's like, man, if you're not passionate, if you don't, this is not going to be for the faint of heart. Let me tell you, when this is, it's going to be very, very, very difficult on a lot of people. And we're talking about wellness. We're talking about, where you are at mentally. You have to be really mentally fit to deal with this. It's going to be difficult, but you have to rely on that support system that you have, whether you're creative or whether you're somebody that's looking into getting in, starting your own business. It doesn't matter what it is, man, what the landscape, what is your story? Do you have a clear message? And who's your customer? Who's your target market? You have to really be able to express and communicate these things clearly. And I'll be the first one to tell you, sometimes I even have difficulty when I'm talking to friends, because I'm always sometimes overthinking, and I think overthinking can sometimes be that silent killer, because you got to really just go with your gut and believe that what you're doing is gonna make a difference. We all want to win, and whatever that field is, you could be a professor, you could be damn near a greeter at Walmart, whatever it is, no one wakes up saying, "Ah, damn, I want to lose today." Like, no one. At least, and then if they do, I don't want to be around them. But that's definitely.
My fault. Go ahead.
No, I think that mindset of, wanting to excel physically, mentally, career-wise, those are the things that we need to encourage people within our own circles to make sure that we are on top of, and then hold them to task on it. Like, are you contacting your friends within your community? Are you checking on them, or are you just saying, screw it, like, this is me, and it is what it is? Because I think often, in especially the Black community, we view, there's already so much competition, and then we view each other as threats in this competition even more, and the information is not being shared, and that's one thing that's, when I was definitely first coming up, that was very tough. Like, hey, what screen printer could you refer me to? If you are in streetwear and you know this is true, having a screen printer, no one shares a screen printer. Absolutely no one, zero. Because that's your goal. That's like sharing your damn barber's name. Like, no, I'm not gonna, no. So that information, being able to give those jewels and say, okay, I know so-and-so's doing this at an incredibly high level, and I know my friend Justin needs that resource. Justin, let me introduce you to so-and-so. He's going to be able to kind of help you get to this next level. Like, because for me, that's really important. I didn't get that. Like, I had mentors, man, my mentors weren't even in the same state as me. My mentors were in Chicago, and Corey or Diego, these are guys that I could, or my boy Bobby, like, these are people that I could call and ask, these questions, and know that they were going to give me, these answers. But I think one thing that we have to start doing is not being afraid to ask those questions. It's really important to the success of, a larger collective community, really.
So I'm going to ask two. I'm trying to keep track of time. That's what I'm looking at, because this thing cuts off at the 45-minute, 50 hour.
Time goes.
Oh yeah. So again, if anybody has questions for him, I see
Kenny, what's up?
I see the sister-in-law in here too.
Hi, Lisa. Meredith, what's up?
But
come out. What's going on, Bobby?
For those
Lindsay.
James up in here too. So for those who
Andres.
For those who don't have a mentor, like for me, like, I think my mom is my mentor, for my entrepreneurial space. But then, like, I didn't necessarily have a mentor like that, what I'm saying?
I think that's really important. One thing that I'm really excited about is one thing that I'm working on, and hopefully once everything gets up and going, we're going to start a mentor. We're going to be Victory Lap will be sponsoring a basketball league with the youth, and we're going to be pairing each kid on the team with someone in a creative field. So, for instance, I have a friend that works over at Viacom, and you may be interested in film, but you may not know where within this industry, this huge industry, you want to get in. Then, pairing those people to like-minded individuals that can give them those gems and kind of help them along the way is going to be very, very, very important. So that's one thing I'm really excited about, because I'm all about education and inspiring the youth, but taking it even a step further. And
for me, I personally, this is how I do it. My attitude, man. I'm just gonna shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have a mentor. I throw myself into the fire and then I figure it out.
Yep.
Because sometimes there's, for the most part, especially if you live in New York City, especially if you live in New York. Like, I think the world's shaped like this, but ain't nobody gonna help you out there. Like you gotta figure that shit
Let's
out.
go for self. Yeah. Get yours.
It's definitely sink or swim. And so again, I taught myself a lot of these particular things through just failing, and figuring out how to succeed. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm still trying to figure that out, right? And again, if the information is not told to me, then I go and seek it. I Google it and I read it, and that's how I apply it. You had a situation. First of all, we're gonna talk about moving in silence. But you had a situation when you lost the store, and then you had to kind of you still have to sustain the brand image. So how did you relapse, or come back from that to turn?
Man, that was a tough situation because the store, while I could have continued it financially didn't make sense because, you know, I'm spending close to $7,000 a month on retail location and home, and it's, you know, I had to hire a lawyer to break the lease, which cost another $15,000, and you know, these things keep adding up. So for me, it was like, okay, so what if you don't have a store? You know, there's plenty of brands that are out, that are around. Not every brand has a store. So, and while I think that that's important in some aspect, I had to wrestle with that thought that, hey, okay, I'm going to close this shop. And I got to pivot. It was critical that I had to make this pivot because, you know, it was going to make or break, really. So I started doing wholesale. Started to open up Victory Lap Wholesale. Was able to get into some incredible doors, make those relationships, and it actually took quite a bit of stress off of me. Because if you know me in person, I'm a very super low key. You will not see me around anywhere. I'm very like behind the scenes, and that's really how I move. The brand is actually quite a reflection. The colors that I use, like everything is kind of like I'm a lover of simplicity and this minimal lifestyle. So, you know, for me to extend myself so much is it's pretty difficult, to be honest with you. Like I want to create. If it were up to me all day, every day, I would just be at a desk drawing and creating. I don't like to talk on the phone. I don't, but I do. So for the brand, I knew that I had the next course of action was retail in order to sustain it, in order to continue moving forward towards that goal, because otherwise it was just going to be that would be it. So, but you know, you fast forward, and these last 2 months, I mean, in terms of sales, done more in these last 2 months. I would just say they've been really rewarding these last 2 months, man, and I've been incredibly grateful because, you know, the people that have supported the brand, you know, I feel like, and when I see these names come through, and I'm like, I know people get it. I know people understand that this is never about me. You could take me out of it. The name Victory Lap itself is strong and means something. And you know, when one person takes their victory lap, they've won at whatever it is that they're competing at, and they are thanking people along the way that have helped them get to where they are. You know, so it's a sentiment. It's this you know, that victor that faced adversity, that didn't give up. You know, you may not have won the Super Bowl, but you might have won Teacher of the Year or, you know, Employee of the Year. So, you know, that is your victory lap to express yourself. So for me, making that pivot to wholesale has been rewarding, but, you know, the goal still, you know, to find the right location in New York to open up another shop. That's definitely on my radar. It's just, man, it's just timing, really. When the timing is right, and I'm gonna do a few pop-up shops for sure, but when the timing is right, then I can express the brand and the vision in an even more clearer way, and I'm excited about it for sure.
So because of the time, we definitely running out. I wanted to get to the Victory Lap and the whole correlation with Nipsey Hussle, but I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do that because there's a story behind that too. Because I remember when you actually had the name, and then the people came. It was like, you know what I'm saying? It was really
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you kind of got on top of that first.
But shout out to Mike and those guys. I know Nipsey's people. I actually met Nipsey in 2009 when him and Dom Kennedy had a show in Denver at Family Affair. Back when they had dropped his mixtape Bullets Have No Names, and was able to experience that. So it's damn near, it's bittersweet, to be honest with you. But his DJ, his tour DJ follows and has supported since day one. Yeah.
I want to say, just as a personal shout out the brand real quick, the new drop, and then we're gonna close out, brother.
Yeah, but first, man, shout out to Salute Life, you, Kevin, your team, for what you guys are doing. I think it's really a great nod, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time to chat and have this conversation, man. I would definitely thank you to everyone that logged on. I sincerely appreciate it. It does not go unnoticed. I'm looking at these names, and it definitely means a lot that you guys support it. So for sure, when this is all over, we're gonna celebrate and continue to get on that path of winning for sure.